Go live. Here we are. Good evening, everyone. How is everyone this evening? My name is Melissa Patterson. If you don't know me just yet, I am the founder of Inner Tranquility, a postpartum holistic health and recovery practitioner, and the first-time author of the upcoming book, Decoding Baby Blues and Postpartum Struggles. I help postpartum nurses overcome exhaustion, overwhelm, and brain fog to boost their energy and shed those postpartum pounds to actively enjoy motherhood. My mission is to empower and nurture mothers through every stage of motherhood with holistic wellness practices and nutrient-packed superfoods. I am passionate about helping moms reprogram their minds, boost their nutrition, and thrive in their journey to more fulfilling motherhood. And today I am here with my friend. We were able to be connected because we decided to be a part of an anthology book called I can't even, what is it?
Becoming an unstoppable woman in health and wellness.
And it's so long. That's why I'm like, oh,
I know.
part two.
Part two, that's right.
Yes. Yes, there's so many anthology books from this beautiful community. So we are part of the part two one. And today we just reached the bestseller from Amazon in the US and in UK. And we're just continually going further. And we haven't even released the paperback yet. So super exciting. I'm here with my friend Gina Marisa. She is a corporate wellness and stress management expert, and she dedicates herself by helping professionals reduce stress and overwhelm in fueling for a successful career using her holistic approach. This is one of the best thing about us and why we connected. We both, go into this holistic healing. She had a very, very incredible journey with renal failure and dealing with transplant and holistic healing modalities saved her life as well as mine. So we're going to kind of go over a little bit about why we chose to be a part of this anthology book and what really fuels us to help others go with whatever we just went through. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, Gina, and just kind of explain a little bit about your chapter and what's in it and what really empowered you to be a part of this anthology book.
Thanks, Melissa. It's so great to be here with you again. As Melissa said, we connected through being a co-author in this book. We are co-authors with 13 other amazing women. It's been an incredible journey and exciting to be a part of. And the my chapter is resilience and renewal: how a transplant fueled a passion for crafting a career in wellness. And as you might imagine from the chapter title and what Melissa already said, I had a kidney transplant 30 years ago. And through that journey, I discovered health and wellness. I was lucky enough not to have to go on um, dialysis, and my dad donated a kidney. And through that process and I was fairly young, I was in my early 20s, and through that process of having this major health event, I kind of dove into the world of health and wellness. And I wanted to learn everything that I could about how to stay healthy so that I could protect my kidney. And I still do that to this day, 30 years later. And I just love learning all of these holistic ways. And so while I did, have surgery to save my kidney, there are other natural and holistic ways to stay healthy. So that's what I was really interested in because when I first started on this journey, I was taking, I don't know, like 10 medications and eventually weeded it down to I'm only taking two today. And I, attribute that to the fact that I live, a pretty healthy life. I'm not perfect, of course, but I do my best to stay healthy because I do want to protect my kidney. I have this goal to be the longest lived kidney transplant person. So I'm working on that 30 years strong. So I have a ways to go though. There's always, new medication that comes out and everything. But through my journey, what I learned, and I look at it today as a blessing because I feel that I don't know that I would have been so into health and wellness had I not had the transplant. And so I look at it today as a gift. And fortunately, because I was, so young at the time, I've been able over the past 30 years to really understand the science behind, health and wellness and learning these natural ways. And I don't like to use the word alternative because they're the ways that was original, right? Using herbs and essential oils and food. That's how they did it hundreds of years ago, right? They didn't have pharmaceuticals. So I feel like I wouldn't have been in this space today had I not had the transplant. And so every time I learned something new, I just wanted to share it. And at the time, I was a paralegal in a small law firm. I just actually retired this year after 33 years. But, being in that environment, even though it was a small office, there was, there's a lot of stress. And I've learned these natural ways to reduce stress. And so, in fact, earlier this year, I had someone ask me, how do you deal with your stress? And I said, well, I don't really have a whole lot of stress. So I think that's great, but I know that's not the case for everybody. So I've learned all of these ways that you can manage your stress. And now that's what I am passionate about. I'm passionate about helping professionals to manage stress in these very natural and holistic ways. You don't have to have many times you don't need surgery or pharmaceuticals, especially in order to manage stress. And stress is probably the number one thing. It's like really high percentage, something like 80 to 90% of chronic diseases are caused by stress today when people go to the doctor. So a lot of the diseases that we're dealing with today can be reversed and stopped and prevented just by reducing stress. So I wanted to be a part of this book to share the health and wellness that I've learned about. And it's been an amazing journey so far.
I love that, your story just is similar to so many others out there. And I think that that's the story now. Anybody who goes into holistic healing, alternative healing, is because they've experienced something so traumatic that the Western medicine has failed to help them with. And so they are forced to turn into something different. And it's funny, like you said, going back to that, we just go back to our root of who we used to be as human beings, where we learned how to use plant medicine. We learned how to use, all these things that Mother Earth has given us to utilize to help support our body, fueling it with energy and also helping with any type of illnesses or pain or suffering. And then we're not talking about just physical, but also mental clarity. Our behavioral health is so, so important. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's so powerful. I think that when people hear that somebody who have gone through what you've gone through and they hear and see that you've went through the holistic. I know there's a lot of people out there that believe, holistic ways is conspiracy or foo-foo. However, there's so many thousands of stories and testimonials that can prove that this way of healing yourself is still very, very powerful. And I'm not, I used to be in the medical field. I worked cardiovascular sonography, and I
Oh,
dealt with a lot of, physical chronic illnesses. And, I'm not saying like don't go to the doctor, and I'm not saying don't do these things, but if you feel inside of you and you can't advocate for yourself that there is something different, and like these medications that you're taking is not making you feel better or it's making things worse, there are better ways out there. And that's why I myself decided to be a part of this anthology, because it's actually a bite size of my upcoming book, as I had mentioned earlier, Decoding Baby Blues and Postpartum Struggle. So I wanted to give everyone a little taste of what my full book that I'm still writing. I've been writing it for about a year and I'm almost done. I'm in the final revision. However, really, really focusing on advocating for ourselves. I went through a very high risk pregnancy and I didn't know that I was going to have this. It was, kind of I want to say slap in the face, I guess. I've always been a very active, healthy person, like you said, healthy, mindful. I mean, obviously, I was in my 20s and early 30s. I drank and went out and I socialized like everybody else, but I was still pretty mindful because I had a condition that Western medicine couldn't help me with my gastrointestinal issues. And I lived with these symptoms every day. And it was very, very scary. And then when I got pregnant, I was deathly ill. I had never expected that to happen for somebody who is very, active, very, healthy person, never been sick, to this bedridden, unable to move, unable to eat, unable to do anything to fuel myself. So I had to have a PICC line that fueled my body with what do you call it? Vitamins and minerals through this PICC line to feed me and my baby. And I was losing weight, obviously, because I wasn't eating and I couldn't even drink water. So I, and then to make matters worse, I actually couldn't take any medication. I was highly sensitive to medication, even Benadryl. I had an allergic reaction right away. And so I had to figure it out. Me and my doctor had to figure out like what else can I do to help the hyperemesis, to help my pain, to help my dizziness. I had low blood pressure instead of high blood pressure. I was low blood pressure. I was like under 80 over 56. And that's pretty low. Yeah. So, I mean, I was going through everything you can think of a pregnant woman could possibly experience. I experienced it all. And so it was a very scary moment in my life. And then through that, not being able to work, I was such a workaholic, not being able to work, not being able to go anywhere, not even be able to go to the bathroom by myself. It was taxing to my mental health. Physically, I was already having all this mayhap, but my mental state I felt was far worse than my physical issues. And at the time, I had no idea what sadness meant or like depression and all these things. I just knew something was wrong. And the more I ignored it, the more it got worse. And
mhm.
I just continued, ignoring it. And that's the thing about being a woman or somebody in pregnancy. We're forced to have to kind of deal with it. And what I teach with my clients and with my books is to tell people that, it's okay to be open. It's okay to not be so-called weak. And my mindset was I was in the medical field. I can't be weak. So I had to show up. I had to pretend that I can handle everything. And so I teach a lot of my clients that it's okay. It's okay because when we ignore symptoms like this and what to look for, right? And not in this book, but in my upcoming book, I really focus on like what to look for, the symptoms to look
Mhm.
for different types of situation. But with this anthology, I get to speak about like self-care practices routine that you can follow. There's also recommendations for preconception, conception, pregnancy, and postpartum nutrition in there. And, I'm just very, very excited to really kind of have this little bit so you guys can understand what my upcoming book will be really more in depth. And it's really for all women who is getting ready for pregnancy or during pregnancy or even postpartum because we still need that help. We still need that
Mhm.
guide and support. And going into holistic healing, I ignored it for many, many years, and it caused physical symptoms where I lost my eyesight, I was losing my hearing, I had physical like problems. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what that was, but I went through so many different things. I was blacking out, and it all boils down to stress, like you were talking about. It was stress-induced physical symptoms, and
Yeah.
that's where I was introduced to therapy, holistic healer who didn't do medication because I was allergic to medication.
Mhm.
And so we had to really go down this holistic healing alternative modalities all through my my healing. And that's where I decided, wow, this is something special. This is something so powerful that I want to be able to share with everybody and know that you can do it and you don't have to be dependent on other people or other things, but really, really know that you yourself can really help and advocate for yourself. So that's part of my book. I'm sorry, I get so passionate about this. And I just absolutely love this whole, connection. And I'm so glad that we got connected because our journey is similar, even though we experience different things, it's so similar. And I'm part of so many groups and communities that have the same story. We have the same storyline. And like you said, we go back to how we used to be, how we used to take care of ourselves before pharmaceuticals. So, anyways,
Right.
so much for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that is an incredible story. You're so right. I'm just thinking back every time you said something. I yes, we have a lot in common, and I wish I had had your expertise back when I also had a high risk pregnancy because of the transplant. I got pregnant very shortly after the transplant, and so I had to see a high risk OB, and um after the pregnancy, and I write about this in the book, I remember laying on the couch and just thinking, oh my gosh, I feel so overwhelmed right now. I have a new baby, I have a home, I have a husband, I have my job. Like, how am I going to do everything? And while I wasn't actually diagnosed with postpartum, I think that I probably did have postpartum and somehow was able to break myself out of that, probably with, all of these health and wellness and the holistic things that I was learning about kind of even helped me with that. And I didn't even really think about it at the time. Um, but yeah, and like you said, the mental is really important and very underappreciated and undervalued. It's like we're taught that the mind and body are separate and they're so interconnected. Like your mind is like everything.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. I mean, everything, and that's what I've learned throughout this whole process. I went back to school to learn a little bit more about behavioral health and how our mind really works, and going having a medical, I already knew my physical body and then learning the behavioral and how they connect and how our mind can really cause physical ailments. And it's been proven time and time again. And, it's so incredible. And I love being able to share this with everybody. And books are just so much fun. And I'm so honored to be a part of it with you and all these other amazing women that get to share their stories and their experience and their journey. So yeah, it's why it's so important to me and so I'm so passionate about it. It's because you're right. Most people, I wasn't diagnosed until I think about 4 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, because I denied it for so long. I didn't want
Hmm.
to be. I was like, I'm not a depressed person. There's no way. This is not me. And there's many
Right.
out there who are extremely independent, successful women that would not ever agree that that's who they are or not who they are, that that's what they're experiencing. And I
Right. Right.
want to, because I saw it a sign of weakness and didn't want to be weak in front of myself, I guess. And so, that's something that I really, really want to push out there and be aware of that even though you're not claiming that you're depressed and you're not claiming these diagnoses, but you also have to pay close attention and be aware of what's happening to you mentally and emotionally and to really take care of yourself because if you continue to ignore it, it can go to higher risk issues, where a lot of women end up having more psychosis issues. And many, many women I've spoken to and I've dealt with, a lot of them didn't get diagnosed until a few years later because they were so afraid
Wow.
talking about it,
Hmm.
or they didn't know what to look for and why my book is so, so important. I'm ready to push it out there because it does. It tells you from, just sadness and what's the difference between baby blues and postpartum and psychosis postpartum. So there's like different phases that we all go through or could go through. And if you continue to ignore it, it can get worse. And, so educating yourself and just really getting to understand more about the mental health, behavioral health, as well as like hormones plays a huge part in being pregnant, obviously.
Yep. Yep.
The fluctuation, our body is really not made for it. And then coming back is a huge turn point for a lot of women too, where they had such a great pregnancy and then suddenly postpartum is like, they end up having this major change, the shift in their
Right.
mentality. And like you said, you start worrying, you start having all these thoughts, you start having these feelings and concerns. And, again, we're taught to let it go. It's
Yep.
okay. That's
Push it
pregnant.
off. Hmm.
Yeah. And, I think that that's why there's so many moms out there that are struggling and having,
Right.
you know, a hard time like understanding like what's going on with me and why am I crying out of nowhere and why am I feeling
Right.
why do I feel defeated? And you shouldn't have to. And that's why, community is so important as well for
Yes.
so I talk
A
about
100%.
community is so, so important. I didn't think so at the time, and I went inward and didn't speak to
Hmm.
anybody. And so
Yep.
I don't want anyone to, ever experience that, to feel alone and defeated and just not, worth it. So I am so, so excited for this, and I hope that you all come read our ebook. It's 99 cents right now. And, the paperback will be being released here fairly soon, about a
Yeah.
week
Yep. November 26th, next Tuesday, I believe. Yes.
right before Thanksgiving.
Yes. It makes the perfect holiday gift too, right? Why not give the gift of health and wellness?
So if you guys want to hear a little bit more about our journey and what we have in our book, please read Gina's art chapter and many, many other amazing women in this book.
Yes.
Honestly, It is an
Yes.
empowering book. It's about transformation and just community and connection. And, this brought me and Gina together. So I'm excited to get to know her a little bit more. And did you have anything else you'd like to add, or did I miss something?
No, I don't think so. It's been great, having this conversation with you. And again, I think the work you're doing is very important. I wish I had had it 30 years ago. Like you said, I didn't even realize it. I didn't even tell anybody any of what I was thinking. So I think it's very important. I do think that it's more recognized today, which is good. But not necessarily from a holistic end. So I think your work is very important, and I'm glad you're bringing it to the forefront. And yes, I'm glad that we were able to co-collaborate on this important anthology.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And again, if you guys have any question or would like to know, I will leave the link to the ebook, and then just keep up because we'll have the update for the release for the paperback. And I thank everybody for listening. Until next time, and remember to always be kind to yourself. Thank
Thank you.
you.